Hi, and welcome to the Fierce Boys podcast. I'm your host, Brigette Gildemaster. This is a podcast for those who are ready to leave behind survival mode after abuse, where we talk about what it looks like to embody who you are as an individual, learn to love yourself, and bring to light healing after surviving abuse from relationships and religion. Pop your earbuds in to hear heartfelt and powerful intensity from myself and guests. Be ready to put into place actual tools and gather insight for you to use on your healing journey. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. I'm Brigette, your host. So today I would love to talk about how we keep negative thoughts at bay. This is a conversation that is so near and dear to my heart because I have struggled with the inner thoughts and the inner cycle of just the hamster wheel going round and round and round and constantly feeling invalue or now I can't say it, undervalued and full of, just other people judging me, the thoughts that I know people are judging me by, even though those are standards I don't care about, being divorced at 25 with 3 young children, while really all my friends were getting married at that time, and having their first babies. The judgment was hard. I lost friends over it. And, I obviously came from that high control religion where all divorce was basically bad unless he just up and left or was beating you, and even then, obviously, I don't know how that would have been handled because I don't know how you go from it's okay to leave if he's beating you versus whether he wants to, rape your daughter. So, I guess I never had that actual situation happen in my circles that I know of. I don't know how they handled it. So, growing up with all of that, the judgment and the thoughts that just went around and round in my head were, absolutely overwhelming. It was one of those things like all night long, you can't sleep, you can't, it just consumes your brain. And even if you get a distraction for a while, it's always just right there again. You jump, in the car for that 5-minute ride, and there they all are all over again. And we can't have those things control us. There is so much more to life. There's so much more to live than what other people are thinking about you and judging you by their standards for. So I have several tools that I've used over the years, that I want to share, and just want you to know you're not alone. Like, I feel like that is something, especially in church circles in Christianity, where you feel like you're the only one that has those kinds of thoughts, of the judgment of what people are thinking and how you're living. And especially as a parent, even, I think we all have those thoughts that just keep going round and round in our head of, why I, don't spank, or why I choose to gentle parent, or why I feel like right now is not the best time to raise my voice to my kid, or why I feel I need to do this or that. And there's always judgment because people don't understand the big picture of your life, and so I feel like everyone struggles with this, so many of us, and I want you to feel seen and heard and know you're not alone. I want you to know that you everyone is struggling with this. And that's one of my points, is that, I'll just actually jump ahead to that because that fits here, is speaking it out loud and saying, I just feel this way, I think this way. These thoughts just keep rolling around my head. Half the time, I would dare say 95% of the time, is what kills those inner thoughts if you're truly working to heal and work past them versus play the victim card. If you're truly wanting to move past it and leave that behind and, walk forward in your own truth, then speaking it out loud to either yourself or journaling or a voice app, is half the battle, is recognizing, I just keep thinking this over and over again, and I realize it's not me judging me, I realize that this is me living in my truth. I want to keep going forward with that. I don't want to live like this. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to go and do what they want me to do or say what they want me to say or parent how they want me to parent or stay with my ex or not get into this relationship. Then I don't want to, and this is my truth over here, to continue down what I'm doing. To just say that out loud and recognize that is half the battle. And that's because we're energy, and that energy gets bottled up inside of us and it gets stuck, and it, just eats at us and will kill us eventually. And we have to let that flow. We have to let that flow from us and flow out away from us and get out that way, and also allow us to process. It's a whole nother level of processing those thoughts and those feelings and those emotions. For me, I just, for so long, I just was in denial of who I was. I was so much in denial. I wasn't going to be that single mom. I wasn't going to be the single mom that, had 3 kids and, always needed help or always needed this or that. And ironically, once I gave into that and was that single mom for a little while, it only lasted a couple months and I became the strong, independent woman I've always wanted to be. And so I allowed that to express out of me instead of holding it tight and being like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I allowed that energy to flow and to be, and allowed myself to be the victim for a little while and take the help I needed to take and to be able to move forward. So I really believe that a huge part of it is speaking it out loud and just getting that off your chest and being able to recognize the problem. And obviously, if you speak to a very close friend or, sometimes even a stranger, though, a stranger can give you a totally different perspective on your situation, especially depending on where your situation is. For me, I was in, like I said, that high control thought process where all of our thoughts were, you monitored all your thoughts. All your thoughts were filtered through the system of religion that we had, and what was good, what was bad. And, on top of that, filtering through your sinful human being, and, the desires of the heart are evil. And all you want to do is, murder everyone and be a wicked human being, when I don't believe that is the case. And so when you're filtering it through all of that and asking someone in your own circle, if you don't want the life of the person you're asking advice from, then don't ask them. Like, if you don't ask that person for advice if you don't want the life they're living. Like, just don't do that, because they're going down that same road. So unless you're wanting that, unless you're wanting to stay in that, or to head for that life, don't find advice there. Find the people who align with you. Find the people who are living the life you want to live, who have the freedom, who yeah, don't give 2 bucks about what the next person thinks and how they get over it. Not the the woman in church who, clearly is a people pleaser and takes everything to heart. That's not where you want to get your advice from. It's not who you want to speak this out loud to. So yeah, find a friend, find a stranger, find, like I said, a voice app is always amazing. My favorite one is Voxer. I use it with all my coaches and friends, and it just allows you to speak with no interruptions, no time limits, no nothing. And you can send notes to yourself, which then you can play back and get some of the best advice, right? Because you're the one living the story. So yeah, that's one of my first steps of that inner critic. But I also, that wasn't what I was going to start with, but so I'll circle back a little bit. I think it is also important to allow yourself to be sad about the emotion you're having, and to actually feel it, knowing it will pass. I know that can be really scary and really dark, and really dark, because I know I've had really dark thoughts. And obviously, always seek professional help if you're really in a bad place, or, yeah, speak out loud to a friend, all the things. But there is an aspect of allowing yourself to just feel what those negative thoughts have impacted you with. Allow yourself to cry in the shower. Allow yourself to go to the park and sit under a tree and just feel what you need to feel. Get yourself out of the noise. If you have little kids, it is the hardest. Like, it is the absolute hardest place to heal from, because when you're healing, not just from a relationship or an experience, but you're growing and your inner child is growing, and you have these little people who are growing and hitting and pushing absolutely every button that you are having going on inside, and every battle you're having going on inside yourself. You're still raising yourself in so many ways, because, children of the 90s, everything was pushed aside. You had no feelings, you had no emotions, suck it up, buttercup. And so now you're allowing yourself to feel those emotions, whether they're happy or sad. I know I even struggled with happy feelings, as I learned to grow and love myself, because there were so many things, you were weird if you did, if you felt so happy you wanted to go out on the dance floor and dance with everybody else, like, you didn't express yourself. You didn't express yourself and your true identity, and you were worried about, showing or expressing any emotion at all. And it's the case for so many of us, regardless of how we were raised. It's just the generation we came from. And so when you have those little people who are struggling with school, with friends, with siblings, and they're frustrated, they're trying to find themselves and their own identity, while you still need to maintain a level of control, because you're the adults and you can only handle so much. And sometimes, you just need to go to bed when you need to go to bed. And, battling through all of that, and inside of you is that same little child just screaming, "This is not how this should be. Shut up and sit down." And you're working through feeling more empathy and working through finding that patience and all those things. And yet, so your insides are bursting while you also have someone screaming at you. But to step away from that chaos, and if it's crying in the shower, or after the kids go to bed, or while they're screaming in the other room and you need to step away, find those moments to allow yourself to be and to flow through these emotions. Because just like speaking them, allowing yourself to be them for a while. I mentioned how I had to be the victim for a while. I did. I finally threw my hands up and said, "Fine, I'm a single mom with 3 kids, and that's the way it is. And this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to suck it up, and I'm going to do all these other things that, weren't on the checklist of get married, homeschool kids, be a stay-at-home mom and wife, and do all the things, and unschool and own land and have a mini farm, and, XYZ. Once I finally got rid of that checklist that was put upon me, and accepted who I was and what I could and couldn't do, and lived in that and felt that, I was allowed to then move forward, because those emotions were no longer there. I had freed them. So giving yourself that time and that space to just be, to just sit, to just cry, to, be happy, be sad, whatever that emotion is you're feeling, and to recognize when you're doing it. I'm allowing myself right now to feel what I'm feeling, to be what I am. And that's okay. It is only for now. It is only for this moment. It is only for these days. It's only for these weeks, or months. Like, we have our whole lives ahead of us. As much as you don't want to waste your time, you also won't get any further if you don't take the time. So that was the first point I wanted to open up with in the beginning, with sitting with yourself and allowing yourself to feel those emotions of who you are, and knowing it's just for a time. It is who we are. As much as we don't want to be the victim, and we don't want to slow down, and we don't want to have this traumatic event affect our lives, it does affect our lives, and we have to acknowledge that. Admitting that and acknowledging that and sitting with that is one of the first steps, the very first steps in that healing journey. And sometimes it does come later, because some of us are stubborn and don't want to don't want to do that. We think we're superwoman, and we're told to be superwoman, and we're told that no matter what's handed our way, we will be able to get through it and keep going forward. And we are strong, but we don't have to be that strong. And especially in Christian circles, as a woman, we're told to even plow through harder. So you don't have to, and you shouldn't give yourself that permission. And only you can give yourself that permission to do that and to have that space for you. In that, if you don't have an environment where you can find space for yourself, it's time to change that environment. It's time to work on finding a way to have moments to yourself. And that looks like so many things. For me, it looks like putting my kids in school, putting my kids in daycare, and getting a job, because I needed time away. I needed adult time away. And I picked jobs where I had downtime. I had time to think and focus and, made enough money, but also, office jobs. I didn't go work retail. I didn't, go work at a coffee shop or anything like that. I picked jobs where there's busy moments and there's lulls where you can be you, and you can have an hour lunch break to yourself that day, or you can run home in quiet, or you can, you know, take 5 minutes in the car before you pick up the kids. We all do it. We all know we do it. Take the 5 minutes before you pick up the kids and just regroup yourself and have that minute to say all the things you're proud of yourself for that day, what you're feeling, what you're struggling. The 5 minutes in the car from dropping the kids off to going to work have saved my life. I work for more reasons than just financial, because in this season of life, I have to have that. That is my sanity right now, beyond anything else. And it has come with sacrifices as well. It's come with sacrifices in my coaching, my advocacy, my, personal things, my home time. The way my house looks half the time is trashed because I have a 18-month-old that likes to drag everything everywhere. But my sanity during the day is worth going to work for and having that outside myself. I also have made a move recently that came, if you've heard my other podcasts, you can hear how that came about exactly, but it also was twofold in that the environment I in had so much surrounding my situation and so many memories and so many people and so many watch this, watch that, just so many things around every corner that I needed to move and I needed to change. And I needed to have a place where I could grow into the person I needed to be. I know, and you've heard me say this before so many times if you've heard any of my other podcasts or follow me on social media, but the people who grow with you are not always the best. They still expect certain things of you. They still expect certain behaviors from you. They still expect certain thought processes you have. And even if you allow yourself to change in those thought processes, if you're truly not safe and comfortable in expressing those types of thoughts that you have, you need to change that environment and find your people and find your tribe that aligns with you so that you can express yourself and actually say these things in confidence with support, and find support so that you can continue to grow in those thoughts and change. Absolutely huge to take a check and a look into your environment. If you have the time to heal, to have those quiet moments to yourself, it is totally possible as a single mom. I'm a single mom of 4, and you can do it. You can do it. There are so many ways. There are so many things you can do to find a healing and nurturing environment for yourself and your kids, because in healing yourself, you're healing your kids. In the last 6 months, we have arrived at the places I was struggling so hard to arrive at just months ago. Like, I thought this was never possible. I thought, well, you know what? I'm just gonna have trauma and I'm gonna have to deal with it forever. And my kids are gonna have to heal from me having my trauma. And instead now I have not only healed and become the parent and woman I want to be, but I'm able to heal them and we're doing so much better. So take a really hard look at that environment and who you have surrounding you because it makes all the difference in the world. And right, a flower can't grow in the environment that, damaged it. So, however that quote goes. Some days I'm on my quotes and other days I am not. Some other things that really helped me with my negative thoughts was breath work. Oh my gosh, breath work is amazing. I really encourage you to find an in live person class, of course, but I also did some virtually. Um, so for me, it's like a never ending cycle. And no matter how hard you're like, okay, I'm not going to think about that anymore, change my thoughts. I'm not going to think about that anymore, change my thoughts. It still didn't do it for me. I went to a breathwork class, and within just a couple of short weeks, I was already reframing my thoughts and able to think in other ways because I was healing my nervous system. I realized it came down to my nervous system and how anxious I was and fearful I was, and all of that versus just controlling my thoughts. There was so much more to it. So breath work is something I highly, highly recommend, as well as journaling. Like I said before, speaking out. Is great, but you can also journal about your feelings to get them out. Um, I think it is another way of expressing that and sharing it. I don't think you'll move through it quite as, in depth, especially if you're in a bad environment and stuff still, but it is a tool that could help you start formulating what is the root of why you're feeling what you're feeling, or why others are causing you to feel the way you feel, or where the root of those thoughts are coming from, if they're actually from people around you, or maybe it's something deeper in your childhood that is triggering that thought. If you want to explore journaling more, I do have a free journal guide. Absolutely love. It is a combination of multiple journals I have used over the years, and I've combined them all to what I have found for me works best. And it's a journal prompts for morning and evening, and then some brain dump journaling prompts as well that have just really help express. They get past that surface layer and into the deep and nitty gritty dirty stuff that is actually causing all those thoughts, the roots of those thoughts, so that you actually know what the problem is. So you can check that out on my website if you want to. Um, so in all that too, I want to stress once again is just like the thoughts are patterns. Like as much as we can control the brain and change our thoughts, like I said, with the breath work, rewiring the nervous system, it does take so much time. And the further and further you get away from a situation, and the further and further your environment gets away from that situation, the faster you will heal. But it still takes time. It's not going to be the switch you flip and you no longer think of that, or that doesn't bother you anymore, or, whatever. And really, you can jump right back in. If social media is horrible if you stalk people from your past a lot and get sucked right back into that mindset. You can get sucked right back into, oh, that's where those people are thinking, that's where they are, that's this, and it will just bounce that reflection, the reflection of them, right back onto your life if you struggle with this. Don't do it. Don't stalk people. Don't try and get back into those circles that are harming you. Just walk away. Just walk away is the best option. But those are things that can damage it, but it still takes time. It still takes time to do all these things, even if you're implementing breath work or speaking out loud or talking to people or going to therapy or, distracting yourself or in the middle of a big move. It's still all new and a change. And it takes time to build an environment. It takes time to build a community, friends that support you. Even if you are in a job, it just depends on if you land one that is a supportive environment or is just like everybody else you knew in your past, and whether or not they support you. But it does take time. So be very, very gentle and gracious with you, which I think is also a huge key. The more we learn to be that gentle and gracious safe space for ourselves, it's a circle. And we are allowed to give ourselves that time because we're allowing ourselves to feel that emotion. Well, at least I did better today than I did yesterday. I didn't think about that near as much, and taking those steps forward. I was really proud of myself the other day. I my my now 6-year-old has tested boundaries beyond belief. I hope we all come out alive of this stage of life, but we'll make it. But there's so much. I am so proud of myself. Yes, I still lose my temper. Yes, I still yell, but I am so proud of myself the way her trying to trigger me and push my buttons, and the way I have reacted with so much more love and compassion than I ever was able to in the past, because of the environment that I have created, because the community I have around me that's also just cheering me on, supporting me, thinks the same way, and is pushing me to be better, instead of, just the environment I was in before, where it's their way, you're not doing it their way, you need to do it their way, or, no suggestions at all either is not helpful, but yet judging you from afar. So it's just a circle of giving yourself, loving on yourself, right? You are amazing. You're doing amazing every day. You are whole and perfect as you are every day. And you just work on yourself, and you keep healing and getting strong, or healing every single day, as a little at a time. This is your journey, and it doesn't have to look any perfect way. There's no right answer. There's no more, yes, I'm going to do this because I have to, and this is what I have to do, unless it aligns with you, and this is your choice. So it becomes this full circle flow of, if you're allowing yourself to be gracious and give yourself that time, you're allowing those emotions to pass through, and it's not this quick, fast response, and anger, and frustration, and everything we were the 90s represents of parenting. And you can work through that, and you can work through the emotions of the judgment from other people. If you're working through that, like I said, for me, it's the divorce aspect. Hugely judged for being a single mom and being that woman. And not only a divorced person, but also so outspoken about it, and so life on my sleeves about my situation, and I used that as a cover up and an excuse for a long time too, but I shouldn't have been judged for it. Like, it's me and it's who I am, and that's okay. And you're who you are, and that's okay. Like, and let's just go forward. You shouldn't be triggered by my story. You need to, like, that this shouldn't trigger you. My life, there's nothing wrong with my life because it's different from yours. So that is all I have for today. So I hope any of that was helpful. I know there's so many more tools out there too, but those are some of my top tools that I have used over the last couple of years to find that freedom, and just learn to step into myself and work through. And I'm still learning, and I'm still growing, but I know I am doing the best I can, and it is absolutely perfect. And there's nothing about it that, except going forward, that I would change in this moment. And I am absolutely whole and perfect in my story and who I am right now, because I am doing the best I absolutely can. And I know you are too. I know you are too. I know if you are trying and you're listening to this and you're grasping and for all those answers, you are doing it. And I absolutely applaud you, and just think that you are an amazing human, and just keep loving yourself. That is the best answer you can ever do, and you will always find the answers if you keep down that path. I hope you have a marvelous week. We'll see you next time on the Fierce Voice podcast. Thank you for joining us today on the Fierce Voice podcast. I truly hope you found healing insight, tools, and a space held for you in this journey. We are all in this together, and you are not alone. You can find me, your host, Brigette Gildemaster, on all social media platforms, and check out my website at www.brigittegildemaster.com, where you can listen to past Fierce Voice episodes, check out my media features, find my books, and inquire about booking me for your next virtual or in-person event. My keynotes are
packed full with real-life stories, actionable tools, and inspiration for healing after a life-altering experience. Or check out my workshop event to learn more about how you can prevent abuse in your area. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time on the Fierce Voice Podcast.